Okay, our next item up for build. What it is we're going to have a blank piece of metal. A very, 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 very large one. It's going to be 4.5 inches by 4.5 inches. Out of 24 or 26 gauge. It's not going to matter too much exactly which one it is. Now, what we're going to do is we're actually going to make some brackets. And these brackets are going to be to stand off the heat exchanger so it's not resting on the bottom of the stove itself. And we're actually going to notch it out and then bend up tabs. These are going to be bent up at 1 inch, this is going to be bent up at 1 inch, and this is going to be notched out. And so we're going to want 4 of these. 4 at 4.5 by 4.5 of, I'm going to just put 24 gauge. If you do 26 gauge, it's going to be fine. The main thing is it doesn't have to be way heavy. It'd be preferably to be 24 gauge since we're talking about it. And this is going to be build up number 11. Okay, here's a piece that's 4.5 by 4.5 inches. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to set our scribe to 1 inch. We'll mark 1 inch and 1 inch in an L shape. Next, we'll set the scribe at 2 1/16 inches. It'd be better off to be 2 1/16 to 2 1/8 inches, preferably 2 1/16. And we'll mark on the other two sides is 2 1/16. Then we'll cut it out. When we cut out this corner inch where the 1 inch notch is, once again it's going to be cut more than a 90. And we just bend this up and bend this up. Hey, check that out. I'm already done. See how fast that is? All we need are 4 of these. And what's going to happen is this is going to set inside the shell and the heat exchanger will end up resting on it, such as this. This is going to keep it up off, and since it's not fastened securely, it's not going to transfer heat as well, and so it's going to help keep everything cooler. And also with the gap, it's going to allow us to put the ashes so as an insulation underneath this particular heat exchanger. Now for mounting the shell on, we're going to reference these marks that were made earlier. Remember, this was 5 5/8 over, 5 5/8 over, and then our back mark. Technically, we don't necessarily need the back mark because what we're going to do is we're going to mount it so it's flush to the front of here, so our metal can still slip in between the lip right there, such as that. My personal preference for mounting it, you can use the pop rivets. They're going to be a little bit more of a nuisance if you use that because you got to pre-drill a hole. My preference is to actually just use a zip screw. The zip screw, it has a very fine point on it, and so it just starts to bore a hole. Then as it starts to screw down in, it really takes off easily. There's another screw called a tech screw. Tech screw actually has like a drill bit on the end of it. The tech screws, they cost more and they actually don't hold as well as one of these. They're easier to strip a tech screw out because they pre-drill a hole, whereas this is more or less forcing the hole open. This in particular is a Malco HW8 by 1/2 zip screw, or Z. So the part number is an HW8X1/2Z. If you go to the store and you get a normal sheet metal screw, it's not going to have that very fine tip for starting this screw out, and it's going to create a little bit of havoc. Also, the screw chuck, preferably a magnetic screw chuck so that it'll hold the screw in so you don't drop it when you're going at different angles. We don't necessarily want the screw to pop down through the underneath side, so actually what I'll do is I'll screw it down, pull the screw out, flip it over, and then rescrew it from the underneath side. Another option is to simply clamp it, screw it from the underneath side. That way it's not going to ream out the hole any. You'll get a tighter fit. This is now screwed down. Now we'll take the bracket. We need to put one bracket against the very back of it. That way it'll stop the heat exchanger from sliding too far back. I've got the bracket in so it'll support the combustion chamber. Now I'll screw the other brackets in a zigzag type of fashion. And I want to leave it so that I can still get the ash down in there, since that's what I'm going to use for insulation on it. I've got the brackets in now. I've only used 4 of them in here, and the reason is it's still going to be supported at the top, it's still going to be supported at the front. This is basically just to get it so it's not going to wobble around in here while the stove is being moved about.